Let's take another two views, particularly from this side of the Atlantic. First, we'll have Dr. Bernard Bulkin, who's the Chief Scientist at BP, one of the world's biggest companies. Following him is Stuart Davis, the CEO of BT Adastro Park, who can bring an insight into the issues facing SMEs, particularly in the use of technology. So first of all, Dr. Bulkin.
Well, first of all, congratulations to those of you who have been sitting through this for a long time here without a break. But I'm not going to offer you a break. We've got to push on here. What I would like to do is introduce the concept that competitiveness in a large established corporation like ours that works across a range of technologically intense businesses, because that's what they are. You might think it's just a bunch of guys drilling and with their sleeves rolled up, but it's pretty much not like that. What I want to introduce is this concept that what competitiveness is about for us is about conceptualizing, understanding, and developing a technology supply chain. So what's this concept of a technology supply chain? I mean, it sounds like a pretty harsh term. You know, I used to be a professor, now I'm a link in BP's technology supply chain. Well, for most corporations, I think a technology supply chain is a sort of organizing principle, and it's about realizing that we do not do everything ourselves, but we're able to work effectively with a variety of suppliers, whether those are universities, small and large companies, public laboratories, even our competitors, and especially with our customers. We can work with all of these suppliers to keep moving forward with innovations and with technology. And by the way, I'm not going to talk too much about customers today, but learning from customers is an important thing to do in order to be innovative, and something we do a lot of. So what are the important components of this supply of technology? Well, I'd like to make a few points here today. First of all, at the core of the technology supply chain, of course, is our own scientists and engineers. In our case, they're both within our central technology laboratories, the groups we have around the world, and they're embedded within our business units. So the technical manager of the Coritin refinery in Essex, or of the acetyls plant in Hull, these guys are important parts of the technology supply chain, just as much as the team leader for reservoirs or a distinguished advisor in environmental technology based at Sunbury, or one of our lubricants, senior lubricants formulators coming from Castrol at our labs in Pangbourne. The processes that all of these people can use for accessing ideas, the establishment of efficient routes for commercialization of these ideas, these are crucial. So within BP, if we look at the health of the internal part of our technology supply chain, I think we feel that we're able to attract a good number of top quality applicants for the vacancies that we have, and we're able to recruit the people we want from among those applicants. If we have a concern, and particularly here in the UK, it's that the best students are not being attracted to some of the key disciplines that are important to us, especially engineering disciplines. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. There's no room, the message about your internal part of the technology supply chain for us is that there's no room for complacency in the ongoing task of finding, developing, and retaining the best people internally. It's something that we have to pay attention to all the time. Now, I'd like to talk about another part of the technology supply chain, and that's other companies. In many industries, there's a well-developed community of companies that are in business just to supply technology to us. For BP, this includes companies like Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker Hughes, Weatherford in the exploration and production business, UOP, IFP, French company, and others in the refining business, companies such as Honeywell and AspenTech in the areas of automation and control, lots of others. The vibrancy of this community is a good measure of the technological health of the industry from our perspective. It varies very much with geography. So we have a strong group of technology suppliers in the UK for the exploration and production business, but in other countries this is less true. And in the UK, if we look at the refining business, for example, we don't have a particularly strong group of technology suppliers. While we have many strong companies as suppliers, we worry about things like consolidation, which is leading to near monopolies in certain of these technologies, about the financial health of some of the companies, some of these have been widely publicized, and about their ongoing investment in their own research. Of course, these last 2 points, the financial health and the investment in research, are linked together and sometimes lead to a downward spiral for companies that are in business to supply technology to other companies. Now I'd like to turn to universities for a minute. Universities are important, but even big companies like ours cannot work with every university. And I think we must make tough decisions about focusing our support. In BP, we're very much of this mind. If you look at our research support in the UK, you will find that while we support 34 universities at some level, half of our total support is for Cambridge and Imperial College. I believe that we should continue this process of focusing, and we'll do more of that over the coming year. At the same time, we're always looking for which universities are moving up in terms of excellence in areas of interest to us. So I don't want Cambridge and Imperial to get too complacent here. And in terms of looking for new areas of excellence, I want to say that part of that quest is for engineering excellence. Engineering is crucial, and I felt that in the first talk this morning, it wasn't given enough play. There was a lot of talk about the science base and its importance in innovation, but the importance of a set of high-quality engineering departments and engineering research going on in universities is absolutely crucial to us. We also are quite enthusiastic about departments where science and engineering work well together. You know, there's an old slogan, industry has problems, universities have departments. And this is often the case in the boundaries between science and engineering. So we have shown our enthusiasm for that, for example, by the degree of support, more than $3 million a year that we're giving to places like University of California at Berkeley and Caltech in California, where chemistry and chemical engineering are one department. And when you go to those places, and I do that frequently, I cannot tell who's a chemistry professor and who's a chemical engineering professor. They work together, and all of our research projects at those two places are very much bringing the skills and interests of those two groups together. Not right for everybody, but I think it's an interesting trend. We believe that our company must build broad and deep relationships with selected universities. And we do that through long-term investments of significant size. What do I mean by these phrases? By long-term, I mean a minimum of 10-year commitments. And this is what we have done now with 6 universities in the world. Actually, I say in the world, but in the UK, the US, and China, those 3 places. By size, I mean the scale of research projects in these relationships more than $1 million a year. Making such commitments means finding faculty members for whom a relationship with us is an important part of their professional lives. In many cases, we find that these are faculty members who are well established in terms of their basic research credentials, but are anxious to see something around their ideas develop and be applied in their lifetimes. So indeed, we sometimes have trouble keeping our faculty partners doing some of the longer-term things that we're interested in having them do. I've said that we want the relationships with the universities to be broad and deep. And for me, this means that we start with an area of interest, and importance to us. For example, multi-phase flow at Cambridge, polyethylene catalysis at Imperial. But that we have chosen those universities because there's excellence not just in the area of focus, but across a broad range of departments. And from this base that we establish, we learn more about the university, its capabilities, and they learn more about us so that new things flow from this. Be they research projects, executive education, access to thought leadership, all things that we look for in our relationships with universities. And all of this is feeding what has to be for us an insatiable technology supply chain. I'd like to just make one small point here about public laboratories as part of this. Because this morning, in passing, public laboratories were mentioned in passing this morning, and I just can't resist making the point that BP at the moment is working with Argonne National Lab, with Los Alamos, with Sandia in the US, and that these laboratories and others in other fields, National Institutes of Health, NIST, many others in the US, have played an important part, which was, again, not really shown this morning, in the overall innovation process, in taking and putting together and bringing to bear big projects in physics and in other areas. And I wonder, and I'll just leave it at that, I wonder whether the relentless drive in this country to privatize all of these laboratories is a really positive contribution to innovation and competitiveness. Finally, I want to talk about intellectual property. Intellectual property is an area of considerable ferment across all of this. We need to explore, I think, new ways to make the relationships along the technology supply chain work in the context of the development of intellectual property. We recognize that universities have begun to take more notice of this, and it is a subject to which we are giving deep thought. Of course, it's not just with universities. There are also many intellectual property issues with our industrial suppliers. In my view, our approach to intellectual property must be such that it fosters an open way of working together. Our scientists and engineers within BP must be able to feel that they can come and go and discuss things with any part of our technology supply chain in such a way that they're not worrying about who owns what percentage of which idea. And I believe that this is possible. I also believe that universities should benefit from developments by their faculty that benefit us. Though we often find that, at least in industries like ours, which don't make widgets or pills, that royalties and license fees don't seem to be the right method for finding this way for the universities to benefit from their developments. This is also an issue with our industrial partners. We're working together in an iterative way to solve problems. We often state a problem, we see a solution that they bring to us, and then we do field trials, and together we develop this to the next stage. Well, this iterative process creates a lot of intellectual property, and we need to think about that, and we have been doing that. The industrial partners want to go on to sell the solution to other people. And actually, we need them to do that. We need them to sell solutions that they've developed with us to some of our competitors. Otherwise, they're not going to be viable companies. And at the same time, we want the solution for ourselves at an affordable price and ahead of the competition. So in both cases, I think the university and the industrial supplier, our needs in the area of intellectual property are not in conflict. And in my view, IP issues can always be resolved satisfactorily once this is realized. Ladies and gentlemen, innovation and competitiveness are not things. They're not things in themselves. They are the outcome of a lot of policies and processes of intelligence and relationships working together for mutual advantage. Once we approach them in this way, there's no limit to the amount of good we can do. Thank you.